Today, perhaps the last episode of this series, Narcissism, Zionism, and Islam. And today we'll discuss the illogicality and cruelty of Zionism. The first trait, most important trait of Shaitan, is a liar. Prophet Muhammad said, Shaitan is a liar even when he makes an objectively true statement. How is that possible? Because his intention is never good. A bad intention makes any statement false. We discussed that before. It's the same with Israel today. Even if they say the earth is not flat, you know there's a sinister motive behind it. Every word that comes out of any of the leaders is a lie. Preposterous lies. And they are the master of racism. Racism not in terms of, colored skin, but the thought that they are superior. What does it come from? Shaitan said that I am made out of fire and Adam is made out of clay. So I must be superior. I'm better than him. Just the same language that Israel talks today. We are chosen people. You see, racism is something that you have this false pride. You have done nothing about it. It's not your accomplishment. You're just being proud. And you're discriminating against others for not something they have done, but something God has given them. For instance, it is very clear, racism against blacks, right? Everybody agrees that that's a terrible thing. But Israel takes it to another level. They said, we are chosen people. We are meaning who? Jewish people. So who chose them? Is God. But that God does not exist. For most of them, the biggest orchestrator of Zionism, they are not godly people. They're actually atheists. You see the logic where it becomes really messed up. Then he can convert to Judaism. All of a sudden, you become chosen people. And yet, you cannot find one godly thing in their rituals. Not one. These are much closer to Shaitanism than any other religion. And they are invoking God whenever it's convenient. Other times, it doesn't exist. All the corruptions you can see, all of them, is rooted in somewhere, some Israeli guy. Another trait of Shaitan is lack of empathy. Empathy has two meanings. The logic of thinking through future events, right? We call it empathy in time. To understand, to think how your action will be faced with reaction. That ability is empathy also. Empathy is also kindness. These guys have none of them, just like Shaitan, completely devoid of empathy. And you know, narcissism, a narcissist person is devoid of empathy. He loses it. He doesn't have it. First victim of Shaitan's lack of empathy is himself. He's himself. Who did the damage? Can you change anything about other people? No. If you discriminate, does anything happen? No. You are the sufferer. Just like today, what Israel is doing is damaging Israel. It's about to be, these people are about to be kicked out from 110 countries. They have been kicked out, 109, according to themselves. Now it's about to be 110. Who did that? Themselves. So they don't have the ability to think what happens to their own future. That's why they said, you know, the most biggest anti-Semite are those Israeli people. So what Shaitan did, whatever he did, he hurt his own long-term future. Short-term, nothing happens. Hey, if you are supposed to be dead, you're dead. It's part of universal order. It's called qadr in Arabic. So you cannot touch. As a result, you're going to hell, but the people you kill are going to heaven. That's Islam. Losing empathy is losing one's ability to be a rational thinker. You cannot think rationally at all.
This comedian tells the most controversial joke on the planet. Some people think God created the universe. Some people think nothing created the universe, which is the funniest guess. And then nothing people make fun of the God people. They say God doesn't exist. I'm like, okay, maybe. But you know what definitely doesn't exist? Nothing. That's the defining characteristic of nothing, is that it doesn't exist. So what are we talking about? Either you think it's God, something you can't see, touch, taste, photograph, and science can't prove, or you think it's nothing, something you can't see, touch, taste, photograph, and science can't prove. But I think we can all agree, if your nothing sometimes spontaneously erupts into everything, that's a pretty goddamn magical fucking nothing, you guys. Ask the nothing people, what happens when you die? They'll tell you, nothing. You go into nothing. I'm like, you mean you merge back with your creator?
You see the logic? It has absolutely no logic. And that's why I say Zionism is the most illogical dogma that there has been so far. So it starts with what? In Surah Hashr, verse 19, Allah said, when they forgot Allah, He made them forget themselves. So you lose the ability to see your own future by being disconnected from Allah, from God, from Creator. And this is the basis of Narcissism. This is the basis of Zionism. This is the basis of Satanism. So go back to the most infamous line in dogma. God created humans with original sin, then made a human pregnant with himself to be born so he can sacrifice himself to save humans from sins that he gave. You see, that's the kind of logic. Zionism makes it worse, believe it or not. Zionism says that Jewish people have historical, religious, and moral right to a homeland in Palestine. How could he have a religious right to a land? Where is the agreement? Who gave you that? Historical usually means ethnic. Moral, whose morality? This morality transferred to be British, the big shaitan. This religion apparently is Satanism, atheism. And historical has no basis. 90% of the Jews that are running Israel, maybe 100%, are not ethnic Jew. They are not from Palestine. They're all from Europe, and they come from ancestors who converted to Judaism. Why? Because it was convenient to do so. They had an option of converting to Islam or Judaism. So they felt Judaism is a better one because you can cash in. Has nothing to do with natural right to the land. Then they continue. The Jewish people have faced centuries of persecution and require a state for self-determination and protection. With Jewish people, you guys converted. When were you persecuted? 90% of you converted to Judaism. Oh, you're talking about Jewish people, so-called Jewish people from Moses' time? Hey, your own guys say that Moses does not even exist. They say it's a myth. Your own people. Look it up. Then they say, we go by Balfour Declaration. Who is that? Is that God? No. It's the British. They are not the owner of the land. They are not inhabitant of the land. And they invoke UN partition plan. What does partition plan mean? You'll have two states. Now they say that Palestine doesn't even exist. Then they say UN is evil. And they get mad at UK for even insinuating that they will recognize Palestine, which is another lie. And they say, oh, if you are planning to recognize a state of Palestine, it should be in London or Paris. That's only yesterday. You see how evil these people are. Turns out, you can look it up. When Harry Truman signed this declaration recognizing Israel, you see how they tried to sneak in. It was a provisional state. It was a provisional government. They omitted that. He hand-corrected it. See, Israel has no legitimacy. They snuck in Jewish state. He crossed it out. Even the guy from Big Shaitan could not take it. He crossed it out. He said, state of Israel. And today, they are occupying 90%, and they are after the 10% left in Gaza and West Bank.
Real Palestinians mirrors exactly what happened to Native Americans in North America. Both involved European settlers arriving on land already inhabited by indigenous peoples, claiming it as their own, and systematically displacing the original inhabitants. The parallels are striking. Native Americans were forced onto reservations, just like Palestinians are confined to Gaza and the West Bank. Both groups face broken treaties, regulations, the fighting with base. The reservation system and the current Palestinian territories both represent the final fragments of what these peoples once controlled entirely. What's happening today isn't new. It's a continuation of the same colonial pattern that created modern America.
The point is, people compare with Palestine and Native American. Yes, there are some parallel. Same with apartheid South Africa. There are some parallel. But can you cite one case where Native Americans were starved to death? Can you cite one case when townships in South Africa were bombed? No. So what is happening in Gaza and West Bank and Palestine has been happening since 1948. There is no parallel. So where does the disconnection come from? We lose completely the logic. Zionism has no logic whatsoever. Allah said in 8:22, they are the worst of human beings, worst of any beings, worst of creature, when you do not use akal, the consensus logic. That's what Zionism has reduced Israeli with. They have become the worst of creature. Loss of empathy leads to narcissistic cruelty to oneself, then to others. You know how many Israelis committed suicide? Even they cannot take it anymore. You know, the whole world hates them. You know, it's run by indicted war criminal. Only country where presidents, prime ministers, they're charged and convicted with rape. What kind of country is that? And they are running the world. They're trying to make the whole world look like Gaza. They constantly plan these idiotic things. Their claim to God is just like saying that I will bless any nation that gives you a totally awesome 30,000-pound bunker buster to drop on Iran. Genesis 12:3. So when say we're God's chosen people, which God are you talking about? Which scripture you have? Zero. Completely made up. Remember Shaitan's mission. Shaitan says first in 4:119 that I will mislead them and delude them with empty hopes, then order them to slit the ears of cattle and alter Allah's creation. Israel personifies this scheme of Shaitan, all of them. See, these are the four. Mislead them, cause them cognitive dissonance, and we talked about that. There's no logic. Second, create false desire. What is false desire? Money, sex, control. Look around. All the Epstein and everything else, they're running the world with this desire, controlling the world with this desire. Talk about slit the ears of cattle. Israel is the champion of genetic modification to all the alteration. Then deface nature. Anything natural, they turn it into artificial. They're the mastermind. They take great pride in changing Allah's creation. It's the capital of every mischief you can imagine. From money laundering to sex trafficking to pedophilia, every one of them, they're the mastermind. Fortunately, Allah has promised. Not only those guys, the followers, all these Muslim countries that are lined up behind Israel, they are the one that will suffer tremendous loss. They are the original racist. Shaitan is the original racist. Racist in terms of discriminating, racist in terms of glorifying himself, the trait that he has done nothing for. He said, I'm made out of fire and Adam is made out of clay, so I'm better. Just like these people are claiming that I'm superior because I'm God's chosen. Who gave you that? Who told you that fire is better than clay? Certainly didn't Allah. Allah didn't. But this is the nature. So what did they do? They pick the most marginalized, the most vulnerable group to oppress. They love children rape. They love killing children. They love to discriminate against Black people. See, only recently, they picked up this famous Black guy, and he's the only guy beaten up. Only guy beaten up. So they pick their victim based on their vulnerability. It's the child rape mentality. We talked about changing nature, right? These are all Israel product. Like God made a mistake to give them feathers. They said, well, feathers are making them too hot, so we'll genetically modify them to make these monsters. They're not chicken anymore, or rooster. And Israel is the pioneer of this technology.
Unhealthy food is not natural. It's demonic temptation. That craving for bad food that you keep giving into might not be yours. It might be a demon. So I used to get intense cravings every single time right before bed. Believe it or not, I had to lose 30 pounds. I'll show you exactly how I did this. But at the time, I thought I just had no discipline. But then I learned gluttony isn't just bad for your body. It's spiritual bait. See, every time you give into these cravings, what you're doing is giving into a spiritual contract of sorts. You're giving demons access to your flesh. So you got to understand, temptation is like a button. And if the button works, it's going to keep getting pressed. But say
Next one, internet addiction. They make us addicted to
screen. It's a portal and something is watching you through it. See, I didn't realize how your phone isn't just a screen. It's a portal and something is watching you through it. See, I didn't realize how off I was until I started tracking how I felt after scrolling. 1 minute, I'd be perfectly fine, and then I'd just binge watch videos. And then the next minute, I'm hit with a bunch of anxiety, a bunch of temptations. And then I came across something that hit me like a truck. See, in ancient occult practices, they used black mirrors to summon demons. Now, these black mirrors we use today, we call them smartphones. And this isn't a metaphor. Your phone reflects you energetically and spiritually. Every single image, video, piece of content, song that you consume has a frequency attached to it. And if you're constantly feeding your spirit and vibration darkness, don't be surprised when something dark shows up in your life. Now, you also have to keep in mind that this is the Dajjal system, the Antichrist system, what they use to manipulate and control the masses to fall to different types of temptation. If you want peace in your life, you need to start controlling what you're consuming. Only use search. No more of this just scrolling endlessly. Or better than that, try a 24-hour dopamine fast. Just hide your phone for a weekend.
and who controls internet completely is Zionism. All of them. Not only they control 95% of the media, internet 100%. Most infamously, the Palantir. They were spying on people at their own expense. Spying for whom? Mossad. They don't even hide it. So you are paying money, you are spending your time, so your data can be collected for Mossad. That's how obscene it is. In 2000, 3, I made a documentary, and we said information age can create the backdrop of infinite injustice as well as infinite justice, depending on who is controlling the information flow. Today, bad guys are controlling. So we have perfect platform for infinite injustice. It is the shaitanic one. That's all we have. Even in social media, we do not have a platform for good guys. Everything we're seeing is from bad guys. We have facts, and that doesn't change, but we're fed the bottom one. That's Zionism. Everything that happens, we are fed with the bottom description, going directly to hell. And this one, the one Islam, is completely absent. Because the only thing that is forbidden today is Islam. Try to talk about true Islam, you don't have a country that will allow you.
Demons nonstop before reverting, I primarily did money spells to the point where I pretty much specialized in that and astral projection. But that being said, there was one demon in particular that I refused to work with the entire time. That demon is Mammon. This is the exact same demon that is responsible for corporate greed. It's the one that people all the way at the top are using. Now, what makes this one particularly evil over the other ones is the fact that it causes the problem and then sells you the solution. So normally in a capitalistic society, what you would do is provide value to your customer, and then the customer provides currency in exchange. It becomes equal, or at least close to equal, to the point where everybody feels like they're getting something they need and they're getting a fair trade. But whenever people start to deal with things like this demon or jinn in particular, they will cause the issue and then sell you the solution on the back end. You could see this in big pharma, for example, and right now in big finance. BlackRock's buying up all the houses, which is inflating the cost of housing, but they're also the ones issuing a loan. So you have to pay more for the house, and you have to pay more interest or riba on top of it. And you could see this through every single major industry ever. Not doing business in a fair manner because they are worshiping demons. They are causing problems and selling you a solution on the back.
These dolls are demonic. Look, Voodoo isn't just these dolls are demonically possessed. They were inspired by the pagan jinn of mischief, and it is pulling people in spiritually. You guys got to hear me out on this one. But initially, when I saw these dolls, I thought it was just like a harmless designer toy. But then I looked a little bit deeper and into the individual that created them, Casing Lung. He based these creatures off the jinn of mischief, and now people are going crazy. Why do you think there's such temptation to buy the things? And as I recorded this, I just got text a screenshot of people throwing away these dolls because they're claiming it has demonic possession. Look, guys, you need to understand, it doesn't matter what the thing is or the object is. If it holds negative energy, it will output, it will radiate that negative energy around you, which is going to attract negativity. Labubu isn't just some cute design. It is a symbol of rebellion, and not just normal rebellion, anarchy, cool, trendy stuff, but rebellion against God's will. They are trickster spirits, and they are dressed for play, and people are giving these to their children. When people are compelled and addicted and hoard things like this, it's blatantly obvious there's something drawing them in. This is no different than any other form of temptation. Look, guys, as an ex-occultist, I'm not unfamiliar with puppets, voodoo dolls, or even just objects with attachments in general. This is something that you can't allow in your home unless you want bad things to come with it.
No,
I don't think all religion is bad, but I do think religion is used to control people.
No, if you actually understand religion, you would know it's used to free people. First of all, most of control that's going on today is based around fear. When you follow religion correctly, you don't fear anything except for God. Matthew 10:28 talks about only fearing the Lord. In the Quran, chapter 2, verse 150 says the exact same thing, that we need to not fear anything except for our Creator. So whenever you only fear God, you no longer fear the government. You no longer fear Big Pharma's propaganda. You no longer fear the news and the media outlets, which, by the way, there's been significant studies talking about how the news has induced more trauma, more stress into people than people actually involved in the things they're talking about. And then we go on to phase two of this conversation. Is it even possible to not have a religion? And whenever you look at modern psychology and you look at how people function, it is impossible for us to move throughout life without a solid belief system. Now, what's very interesting is the people who often claim that they are not religious at all and that they're atheists, they follow a certain political party that's blue. And their whole framework and idea on life matches that. That is religion. You just put your religion to a different place. You turned your religion into Lady Gaga, Taylor Swift, Nike, Adidas. It's impossible for us as humans not to worship something. So it's up to you to decide, are you going to worship the greatest thing ever? Or are you going to worship the creation?
With that, what goes through their, have you ever wondered why demons in the first place? Like, have you ever wondered like how people even get started with that? What goes through their head that makes them do it? Well, I'm going to explain to you exactly why I did it and how I got out of it. So somebody gets to the point in their life where they're willing to possess themselves with a demon. It doesn't happen for no reason, and you get baited into it just like I did. So of course I was going through really detrimental moments in life. I was really alone, but the thing that actually got me into doing rituals was I got cursed. So whenever you get cursed, what goes through your head is fight fire with fire. That's what you want to do. You think, oh, I got cursed, so I need to do a ritual to stop the curse. This is one of their tricks. You don't need to work with a demon to get demons away from you. What they do is essentially extort you. They put these thoughts in your mind that you have to go to them to get it to stop. You have to go to their demon to stop other demons. And the issue with it is when people do this, it does work. But there's a big catch. This is extortion. So you set up this whole ritual for protection. You do it, the curse gets broken. But then weeks, months later, they come back and they tell you, oh, you gave me something before. All your symptoms are back again, which is caused by them, but you don't realize it. And they say, oh, do this ritual for me, and then I'll get rid of it. Now, I'll just cut to the chase here. The only way to avoid this situation from being a perpetual cycle of demons and curses is you have to be up on your prayer. Your connection with God will defeat all of it. Have you
about the most terrifying demon or jinn? It's not a succubus. It's not the thing that haunts your nightmares, and it's not your little brother or sister. The most terrifying paranormal anything by far is a mimic. They are very patient. Patience is their trick. They will watch you for weeks, months, years, copying everything you do, noticing your little mannerisms. They will identify the things you love, the things you hate, and they start to copy it. And it starts to be this second voice in your head that's agreeing with everything. Most people mistake it as an ego, and this is why it's so dangerous. And you don't realize it initially because you're getting a lot of reassurance from the mimic. You're getting really pushed forward and solidified in your own beliefs. And what happens over time is it starts persuading you into sin, persuading you into negative actions or haram. And as you continue on this path, you begin to not trust yourself. The problem is it slowly suffocates your own voice, your internal monologue, and creates its own. These mimics are more destructive than anything you can ever deal with. And I know your narcissistic ex was pretty bad, but this is 10 times worse. And if you are dealing with this thing where you're doubting yourself constantly and you feel like you can't trust your own thoughts, you need to remind yourself of your own self-identity. Go.
And in Arabic, this is the nafs al-amara, the one that whispers. It's the agent of shaitan sitting within you.
Don't understand about addiction, which is actually the reason why I decline most invitations to speak about the topic, is that people think that addiction has to do with drugs and alcohol, and it has really very, very little to do with drugs and alcohol. First of all, there are other addictions. People become addicted to behaviors or to people, relationships. It doesn't have to be a chemical. But secondly, and much more importantly, what people don't get is that the drug that the person is using to numb themselves is not the problem. It's the solution. I'll say it again. The drug is not the problem. The drug is the solution. Yeah, it's a solution that destroys your life, but it's a solution nonetheless, meaning to say, the real issue of addiction is the underlying issue that the addict is attempting to address through the self-numbing behavior of the drug of choice. And what is that underlying condition? Very, very, very simple. A deep discomfort with one's own self. It's like being allergic to one's own self, uncomfortable in your own skin, permanently unique, lonely in a crowded room, always wanting to feel a part of, instead feeling apart from. And that is that gnawing feeling that the drug or the alcohol, the high-risk behavior is being used to numb the person from, to distract them from what people don't understand about addiction.
You see, Shaitan is the ultimate narcissist. He hates himself. And what he does, he tries to make everybody hate themselves. And this is the catch. Anytime you are not connected to Allah, you hate yourself. And this is where all the evil comes from. And Israel personifies this attitude. They control all the addiction we talked about. All of them are money-making machines for Zionists. All of them are controlled by them. Then there is this low-grade Shaitanic agents. This particular one, very popular TikToker, she talks about Quranists, meaning you don't need Quran, you only need Quran, you don't need any hadith. And we showed scientifically that's evil. Because without hadith, you do not have any ability to interpret any verse of Quran. And you will always find out they are somehow connected, all connected to Israel. These are the features of narcissists, and Israel has them all. We talked about it before, so we're not going to. We talk about drug, cigarettes, sugar. All of the industries are controlled by the Zionists. And you see in their faces, they smirk. When you suffer, they love it. You saw the pictures of Israeli IDF soldiers posting pictures in the celebrating the killing of children. They openly brag about all the nasty things they did. This mindset is uniquely Shaitanic and uniquely Zionism.
Manipulation and making you doubt your words to destroy a narcissist. Why to shut down a narcissist? Use their worst fear against them. The truth about having narcissistic lying in reproach. That's
So all the features of narcissism, it's boiled down to Zionism in all aspects. And they are all extremely illogical. We have cited this hadith many times. Prophet talked about munafiq, and this is typical narcissistic trait. When they speak, they lie. When they promise something, they break. When they make an agreement, they dishonor. When they argue viciously without logic. And this is the fundamental. If you watch any of the Zionists talk ever, all of them fulfill all four criteria.
Starving the people of Gaza.
Well, because we're trying to get the food in, and we let food trucks in, and guess what happens when we let them in? Hamas steals the food, takes the good chunk for itself, then they jack up the prices, and then they sell the food to its population, to its hungry population, if they give them at all. And then use the money that they take from their own people to recruit more killers into their terror machine.
Every word that comes out of the foul mouth, every word is a lie. And in terms of broken promises, this is a list. You can check it out. There's a list of dozens of UN security resolution, all of them violated. They have 45 resolutions from Human Rights alone. All of them violated. They have no regard for anything that makes sense. They invoke UN when it comes to legitimacy. They say, oh, UN authorized us, therefore we exist. Then when it comes to violating, UN is the first one that goes. They broke every treaty, every peace accord they signed, each of them they broke. Every treaty, every ceasefire in Lebanon, like hundreds of times they violated. In Gaza, you saw what happened. They cannot be trusted. People know that for thousands of years. But this is the new brand. When they were being kicked out from all the countries, they were not so powerful. Now they have found a new trick. They control everybody. All the politicians are bought. Now they're talking about Epstein and the embarrassment that Trump faces because he was in Epstein list on blah, blah. That's not the issue. The issue is Mossad bought all of them and blackmailed all of them. That's why both parties are against it. It has nothing to do with Trump or being embarrassed or personal involvement. The involvement of Mossad is the real tale, and that is not being discussed. We talk about these kind of people, call them Maghzub and Dolun. Maghzub is the one who deliberately supported. And Dolun is the one who mistakenly, because they invoke a false premise.
Well, unfortunately, that soul is buried so deep down, it's just impossible. We can't fix these people. Unfortunately, that soul is buried so deep down, it's just impossible to retrieve it. Even in psychology, we say there's no cure for narcissism because you really can't help someone who doesn't recognize that there's something wrong with them. I think that's the bottom line of it. They don't believe that there's anything wrong with them. They think that the way they function and the way they see the world and relationships and just the world.
Then we'll see some of the examples of how extremely cruel these people are. 11 months ago, long before the latest crisis, they said, Israel minister says it may be moral to starve 2 million Gazans, but no one in the world would let us. So 11 months ago, they were saying it is okay for them to starve 2 million people. But they were afraid that they would not be allowed. Sure enough, the government, the world that they control has allowed it very easily. Nothing happens. Look at the picture. Look around, and if you find in history, there has been another episode of this kind. I haven't looked around, there's none. Forced starvation of 2 million people in a place they have nowhere to go to. It's like an open air prison. They concocted this falsehood that, oh, Hamas is stealing them. It turned out they themselves admitted 1,000 trucks made for Gaza buried was left in deep pits to hide the evidence. Remember, Netanyahu saying that Hamas is stealing it. It's complete projection. Every trait of shaitan, every trait of narcissist is in these people. This is Palestine under Ottoman rule, and they said there was land but without people. This was, I think, about 14 years ago. It's a cartoon. that their own guys made. Israel is stabbing Gaza and said, blame Hamas. It's Hamas game. Hamas existed since 2005. They killed so many. They evicted millions way before Gaza, way before Hamas ever existed. There, they make it look like a personal issue. It's not. Trump was not, the biggest crime was not Trump was a pedophile or he was marginalized or blackmailed, whatever. Biggest crime, biggest issue is Mossad blackmailing every politician, all the scientists, the top ones, whoever has any influence in the world, they are blackmailed. And it's about Mossad. It's not about Trump. This is the latest one. A child was given food and he thanked, he kissed his hand. You see that? Then they killed him. Look it up. In history, has there ever been such cruelty? This is extreme. Then this guy writes this article, is God an anti-Semite? Because God has, anybody has any iota of conscience is an anti-Semite for him. And of course, God is the epitome of empathy, epitome of consciousness and conscience. Of course, he is anti-Semite. They don't hide it anymore. Here they're saying, well, if there has to be a Palestinian state, it should be in London or Paris. So these idiots who always in secret support Israel anyhow, they're walking out because they cannot take it anymore. Even their own students cannot take it anymore. Hamza is the former First Minister of Scotland. He says, my father-in-law's cousin went to get flour. He's not a terrorist. He was shot in the stomach, and then a tank ran over him. The level of cruelty, imagine that. And they don't hide it anymore. I'm personally proud of the ruins of Gaza, and that every baby, even 80 years from now, will tell their grandchildren what the Jews did. So they're very proud of this operation. They're very proud of this cruelty. And that is unique. You did not hear Hitler say that. You did not hear apartheid South Africa say that. Nobody stooped that low. They all come from, none of them has Semite root. And they're the leaders. And then they have the audacity of saying this is fake news. They said the media showed this baby and said he's starving because of Israel. That's a lie. This is an 11-month-old. He is not starving. He has a long-term stomach illness and totally unrelated to the war in Gaza. But anti-Israel outlets use this photo to push a fake feminist story and blame Israel for something that isn't true. This is how propaganda works. No civilian should go hungry, and that's why Israel is delivering extra aid. How many lies in there? And who are they blaming? Their own news outlets. 95% of news outlets are controlled by these same guys. And they're saying they are anti-Israel. And they are planting this story. It takes to another level when they are threatening reports that the state of Israel may sue the New York Times. By the way, New York Times is owned by them. And this New York Times got the fake news award from Trump because they lie all the time. But only lie, they are only one they are angry about, and they are going to plan to sue for $10 billion, is over. Only true story that came out, and that involves Palestine and Gaza. You see, it's often said that the worst thing a narcissist wants to hear is truth. This is the epitome of narcissism. See the picture of Gaza, and they call it self-defense. Here's when he kissed me, and he said whatever, and then they shot him. He was grateful for having some food. Then they shot him. Then another story they concocted. You remember the 50 beheaded babies, all false. The rape, all false. Even the killing, it turned out that IDF was killing the most. Why? Because IDF did not want them to be captured as hostages. Here, they said, well, there's still hackers of this on this app saying that war in Gaza would end today if Hamas would just release the Israeli hostages. They offered to release the hostages on October, 2 days later, but they didn't. Now they say, well, why didn't they release? If they release it, the war will be over. As a matter of fact, idiots like in UK and Canada, they're saying that, oh, they should release, then we'll have peace. These are all paid, blackmailed, most corrupt people. They are all bought up by Israel, and they're running the whole world. And they're falling for the same lies. You see, 48 Palestinians were killed and thousands wounded on Wednesday while waiting for food at a crossing in the Gaza Strip, according to the local hospital. So even Piers Morgan cannot take it anymore. He's Israel's friend. They cannot take it anymore. You see ladies like Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson. These are not pro-Islam people, but they cannot take it anymore. This Cenk Uyghur, a Turkish guy who is absolutely not Islamic, even them turning against Israel. These are the paid actors by Israel, by the way. Even then, they can't take it anymore. So in conclusion, Zionism is the most illogical and the vilest philosophy ever concocted by Shaitan. This is the ultimate of Shaitanism. The oppression of Palestine is unprecedented in human history. Check that out. With that, I will conclude this final episode. Assalamu alaikum.